And welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of the Cherry Heat Check, unofficial New Mexico Lobos basketball podcast. I'm Ricky Thompson, recording today, Thursday, November 13th, 2 days before the New Mexico Lobos head down south to take on the New Mexico State Aggies. Lobos, of course, coming off 2 wins, 3 overall at home, but the last 2 against UT Arlington, and then facing UC Riverside without Dayton Albury, without Uriah Tenet, and still coming out on top in that one, 82-68 this past Tuesday night. I will talk about those games a little bit later on in the show. I will kick off the show with the Rio Grande rivalry, preview the Battle of I-25, preview whatever you want to call it. New Mexico State will be hosting New Mexico Lobos for Eric Olin, and this whole roster's first time playing in this rivalry. I'll be bringing on someone from Las Cruces, Mr. Marshall Mecham, out of Las Cruces, going to school down there in New Mexico State, has his own podcast where he covers a team called New Mexico State Men's Basketball News. He also, I believe, is interning in the athletic department there as a media member. So I'll be kicking this show off with him understanding what the Aggies are going to bring this weekend and what challenges they will face for the Lobos. Want to thank everyone again for joining and following along on all the platforms. So let's get into it. All right, to help me preview this upcoming rivalry game with New Mexico State and the Lobos visiting this year round, Marshall, I'm trying to bring you on here.
There you go.
Joining me from Las Cruces, has his own podcast, NM State Men's Basketball News, also writes, I believe, for the newspaper there at New Mexico State, the Crimson Wire. Marshall, how are you doing? Thanks for joining, and are people getting excited for the game down there?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Appreciate you for having me on here, and definitely, it's a big game around here. A lot earlier than usual in the year, just the third game of the season for us, or the third game for us, fourth for you guys. So really looking forward to it.
And actually, Coach Hooten kind of mentioned the other day, I think after that second game in his presser, how hard it's actually been to get Division I teams in the non-con to come down there just because of lack of resources. Are you at all worried that maybe they haven't had enough experience in these games yet to be ready for this game? Or are you expecting the team to be ready to go?
I'd say a little bit of both. Obviously, I feel like it'd be more ideal to have a Division I opponent that we've gone against, or at least a little bit better of a team. The two teams we played, Division II opponents, still got the win by double digits. Definitely could have done a little bit better. But it's always nice to be 2-0 regardless. But definitely would have been nicer if we could have more of competition before. I know last year we had played 8 games and we were 3-5 on a 5-game losing streak, but played against a lot of really good competition. And obviously the Lobos were probably one of our more tougher opponents to start the year. But really wish we would have had, more of a test, I guess you could say. But sometimes you can't control those things. So we'll see how it goes on Saturday night.
And to me, New Mexico Highland, I mean, they look like they had Division I guys on there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ibrahim Sacco, who was on the Lobos and the Aggies momentarily over the summer, was on Highland. So that, that was a good matchup, I think. But can you tell us, this is basically a brand new roster. I think 8% of minutes played returning, about 6% of their scoring.
Yeah.
I know they bring in Julius Mims from Idaho, had a concussion in the first game. Maybe you can tell if he's ready. But along with Mims and Jamel Jones, who are you expecting to stand out this year?
I feel like, other than those two guys, I think Steer Malonga is a guy that, has a really good opportunity to play very well. He's a guy who in high school was really good, was top 100 in his class, and played very well in the first game against Adams State, had about 16 points. Probably could have had over 20 if he would have made his free throws. Last game against Highlands didn't play as well, but thankfully we had a freshman off the bench, Augustine Ekwe, played very well, scored 10 points. But I think Steer Malonga is a guy that, once he develops and gets more, time under his belt, he's going to be a really solid player for us.
What about this freshman big man, Augustine Ekwe, 6'9"? I saw him. He had 10 points against New Mexico Highlands.
Yeah, yeah.
Is he expected to get time consistently?
I'd say so for sure. I mean, him and Sear are our only true posts. So no matter how well or bad they're playing, they're gonna need to step up and play a lot of big minutes for us in a lot of big games. So even though he's just a freshman, I think it's going to be really good for him to get a lot of big minutes. And it's really hard to keep guys 4 years now, especially at the mid-major level. But really hoping that he's a guy that can do that. And I think he's starting off great.
And Coach Hooten was also speaking a little bit after the game. I think a little bit because Mims was out and they kind of had to rotate guys into positions they weren't expecting. But he was just talking about how the identity of the team is still being, trying to figure that out on offense. What do you foresee? I know you watched this game and played this game. What do you see the identity being on offense?
Well, there's definitely a lot of offensive talent. I mean, you look at last year, we lost a lot of games just because, we weren't scoring offensively. Our defense was always there, but offense wasn't getting it going. So I think Coach Noonan did a really great job at picking up a lot of great scores. But with that, all these guys are used to being, double digit point per game scorers on their college teams. Now they're coming here, whereas we're probably going to have like maybe 3 or 4 guys who are scoring double figures. So a lot of guys are going to have to play in different roles. So I think the biggest thing is just finding that. And, as the season goes on, I think they'll definitely get that. That's another reason why it's we're playing UNM so early in the year. I feel like both teams probably aren't where they want to be at exactly. But by the end of the season, I think both teams will be playing their best brand of basketball. So
Yeah, and as we know, last year's game went into overtime. Of course, a
yep,
goaltend at the end of regulation that
yep,
probably would have missed after Braden Applehounds threw it up. But the year before, the Lobos sweeping the series, but it really coming down to a last second play again
yeah, yep.
by Donovan Dent. So it's been very close the last 2 years, even though these guys, for the most part, maybe two guys, I think, on state have two guys that played last year a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Um, but assuming Mims is back for this game, what do you think will be key for them to hang with UNM? And I guess just for your knowledge right now, New Mexico was without Dayton Albury, their starting point guard last game. I would expect him to be ready here, but they have been, I think, out rebound or close to double, marginal rebounding where they don't have as much size as New Mexico State. Do you think that's something the Aggies will try to capitalize on?
Yeah, that's something I've been trying to keep up with. It looks like, I mean, you guys have like a lot of even scores. But I feel like if we can really just, dominate the post play with both Sierra and Augustine, I think that's going to be a big help. I feel like if we don't do that, our shot of winning is, not going to be as high. I feel like Jamel Jones needs to keep playing the way he has been. He's playing very well. Scored over 20 points in both games, but again, they've been against Division II opponents. No doubt in my mind that he'll rise to the occasion. So I feel like post play and this Jamel, playing very well. I think Juice coming back will be huge. I think I'm not sure what the percentage of him playing is, but should be a lot higher. I know he was in concussion protocol. The doctors didn't clear him to play on Tuesday, but having him back for the Lobo game will be huge for sure. So
Okay, and I guess just beyond this game, I believe they were picked fourth in the media polls in the beginning of the season for their conference there. What are your expectations for this team? I know it's early and you haven't, there's basically a brand new roster, so it's hard
yeah,
to say. But with what you've seen from the rest of the conference, where do you think they're going to fall in down the line here?
yes, I think the Aggies they're picked to finish third behind Kennesaw State and Liberty, and both those teams are looking really really good right now. They're both 3-0. Middle Tennessee's looking really good. I believe FIU's one on one. Can't remember all the records on the top of my head. But I think honestly, finishing third is a very good prediction. I think that's somewhere we can definitely be at. In Conference USA, I feel like every team's beatable. We might see a team at the bottom of the conference might be able to beat one of the top dogs. You just never know. So for as good as Liberty and Kennesaw State are playing, I think we definitely have a chance to beat them, especially since we're not playing them till later in the year. And to be honest, I think we play them right now, probably wouldn't have a great shot at winning those games. But I think we play against Kennesaw State at home in our last game of the season, and then the other games aren't until February. I believe one of those are nationally televised. So I think the guys will be a lot more ready to play. It's scary how great those teams are looking so far with it being so early in the season. Um, I think everyone else in the conference, I'm not saying we'll be able to beat them. We look at last year, the only team we got swept by was Liberty. So I feel like if we can maintain beating everybody else in the conference at least once or sweeping them, and then trying to get a big win against Liberty will be huge. So
Yeah, I'd like to see them do well. Obviously, it's been a few years since they were in the tournament, but
yeah.
what is it, 26 times I think they've been in the
Something
big
like
dance,
yeah,
beating UConn just a
yep,
couple years ago, one of the few teams to beat UConn in
yeah,
the
yeah,
tournament since Dan Hurley has been there. So, would like to see them make the run again.
for sure.
Um, what kind of crowd do you think we can expect at the game this weekend when the
Mhm.
Lobos visit?
Yeah, so a couple years ago in Coach Newton's first year, we had a packed Pan American Center night, and I think the exact number we had 11,278 people, and the Pan Am fits just under 13,000, I think. So I'd assume somewhere around that, if not a little bit more, especially since it's a big rival game. You know, that game that got over 11,000 wasn't even a rival game, and I believe the last time we had the Lobos come down to Las Cruces, the Aggies were playing, in the football bowl game in Albuquerque. So we had a lot of fans travel to that game the day before. Didn't have as much fans as we probably had wanted. So I'm expecting a big crowd. I'd hope at least 11 to 12,000 in that range. But I think worst case scenario, I'll last at least 10,000. We'll see how it goes though. It's definitely a big game and everybody knows about it. And a lot of the people that don't go to the games are at least going to be at that one. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think they're doing a white out. Everybody
Quite.
wear
Yep.
white.
There's
So
also a
that'll
$1,000 grant in the stands for the students. So that always gets them out. Try to get some money for tuition. So
are you eligible for that?
I think I can. I'm supposed to. I've talked about my videos before. I'm interning with the athletics for media relations, which has been a great experience for me. So I'll be helping out with stats for the game. Or actually, I don't know. I might be doing stats. Might be helping out with some clipping or whatever. See how it goes. I'll be there on the sidelines and stuff. So if I get there early enough and they're already set up, maybe I'll try to do so. We'll see how it goes though. So hopefully, I think it'd be a great opportunity. I've entered my name into it multiple times. Has never gotten it, but hopefully this is the year. So.
All right, but before I let you go, I'm assuming you're over 21, maybe not, but if you had to guess the betting line
Ooh,
on this game, I don't know if you're a betting man yet, but what do you, I haven't seen the spread. What I'm
yeah,
guessing it'll be in the Lobos' favor.
I would assume so. I'd assume so.
I'm guessing maybe 5 to 6, but
Mhm.
is what do you think?
Honestly, it's hard to say. I think with us being home, I think you guys are going to still be favored to win the game for sure. I think with us being home, maybe it'll be a little closer. Like if we're, in New Mexico or in Albuquerque, maybe it'd be a little bit higher. I'm going to say probably around the same, honestly. I'm going to say 4 or 5. I checked earlier today, haven't seen anything. I think the ESPN analytics said like, it was like a 68% chance for the Lobos to win or something. Not too sure. I checked it before the season. It showed that we were actually favored to win. But after, the games have gone so far, I think it's definitely in the Lobos' favor. That's another thing too. I think for us to win, we're gonna need that home crowd for sure. It's gonna be a big thing. Big advantage for us. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, Marshall. Well, I definitely appreciate you for joining me here. Boots on the ground. You'll be on the court or up in the booth there
Yeah,
working
yeah,
the game.
fun.
Appreciate everything you do for the basketball in the state there. Everybody, again, you can catch Marshall on the Crimson Wire where he writes stories or on his podcast. Looks like you're getting close to 1,000 subscribers
A little
there.
bit. Around like 860 right now. So I would love to hit a
And it
thousand
looks
right
like
now.
you've only been doing it about a year or so. Is that right?
Yeah, I started. I made some YouTube videos early on in college, but I didn't really start honing in on just the basketball team itself until probably sophomore year, end of my sophomore year, beginning of my junior year. So just a little over a year, about a year and a half. So it's definitely growing a lot. Really happy with where it's been, and I don't want to say I'm surprised, but it's just cool to see everyone around town just really like trying to keep up with the team and looking to me for that. So
Yeah, I appreciate it too. So anybody that wants to keep up with Marshall and the Aggies, it's NM State MBB News.
there,
And Marshall, appreciate you. Thank you again.
yeah, thank you so much for having me, man.
So this game will take place in Cruces at 7 p.m. on Saturday the 15th. As we mentioned in the Pan Am Center, it will be on ESPN Plus. Don't think that'll be on regular TV. You got to pay for the ESPN Plus package, which I'm sure many people have done since YouTube is having its issues with Disney and ESPN, as we know. But Lobos lead the series all time 50-38 over the Aggies. And as we mentioned, as I was talking to Marshall there, Lobos lost their last meeting with the Aggies last year in the pit in overtime. Had a chance in overtime, but just couldn't do it. So Lobos looking to turn back to their winning ways versus the Aggies. I think if Dayton Albury Tenet are back, or even one of them are back, that will make a big difference. As we saw in the game against UC Riverside, I think the Lobos need Albury possibly more on defense to really be that point of attack defender to disrupt and cause turnovers out there. And Tenet as well also plays big on defense despite his small size. So as we talk with Marshall, key players on this Aggies team to look out for will be Jamel Jones, transfer from Cal State Bakersfield, who's been their leading scorer so far, and Julius Mims, the 6'9" forward, transfer from Idaho, who did have a concussion in the first game this year for the Aggies versus Adams State, but will be expected to play, I would think. So Aggies still figuring out what they're going to be. Haven't really faced competition at the level that the Lobos are at. Lobos looking fairly good on defense so far, still finding their footing, shooting the basketball, but scored over 50 points in the paint last game against UC Riverside and against this Aggies front that stands 6'9", 6'11", even 6'6" guard. It will be very important for the Lobos to rebound, not just the big men, but a team effort as well. Like to see Chol hit the boards hard, along with Hal's been doing a great job with Bullion. Of course, had a double-double last game. So I do expect the Lobos to win this game regardless of if Albury plays or not. I think the Lobos showed that they dealt with adversity well in their previous game against UC Riverside, in which they won 82-68. Chris Howell really becoming the primary ball handler along with Luke Hopt. They scoring in double figures each. Howell with 15 points and 5 assists, 4 rebounds as well. Antonio Chol added 14 points in that game. And Javis Miller brought a spark off the bench with 2 3-point plays and had a shot at another one where he missed the free throw. So Lobos really flexing the depth of this roster, really showing that these guys that have these multiple skill sets are able to use them when other guys go down. And I think that will be important throughout the year when there are injuries or things go wrong, foul trouble along the way, that other guys can step into these positions because they're not foreign to them. And Chris House spoke about that to the media after that win, saying, he has spent time in practice playing with Luke Hopt, so it wasn't too big of a difference. And Javis Miller echoed that in his interview, saying they work through all these different rotations in practice. So when scenarios come like this, when maybe a guard is out, they have someone else that they're already used to playing off of and distributing the ball throughout the offense. So that's very promising. And if we just look over the 3 games the Lobos have played so far, Jake Hall is the leading scorer per game, averaging 12.3, the freshman. Tomislav Bullion averaging 12 points a game. Albury averaging 10.5 in his 2 games played. And Antonio Chol also averaging 10 points. And I like Chol's aggressiveness in this game versus Riverside, especially attacking the mid-range, going to that turnaround jumper, that mid-range jumper, and not only settling for three-pointers. And I would like Chol to take 10 or more shots per game on this team. I think he deserves to shoot the ball more, and he's shown that he's one of the guys they can go to when they need a bucket. Because if you looked at the time in this previous game when Bullion and Chol went out, near the end of the first half, that's when the Lobos offense really became stagnant. When you don't have a Bullion to dump it down to or a Chol to create something, especially with an Albury out, the offense really kind of almost fell asleep, and they had 3 to 4 bad possessions before I think they got either Chol or Bullion or both of them back in to go on a little bit of a run to close the half themselves. So with Albury out, Chol, Bullion, obviously the focus, but can't say enough about Chris Howe stepping up with, I believe, tying his career high in that previous game of 15 after 2 years at St. Mary's and 1 year at UCSD with Coach Olin coming through with 15 big points here for the Lobos. Would look for him to continue to be a leader on the court. His style of play is really just very patient, always under control. And what I like is that's rubbing off on the rest of the team. If they have a few bad possessions, they don't start like they're hanging their heads or like it's going to get them out of what they're doing. So that's promising seeing them go through that adversity last game and really turn it back on UC Riverside. But one thing you won't really see on these stats that I looked up is the Lobos are forcing over 19 turnovers a game through these 3 games and only turning it over, I believe, about 10 to 11 times themselves. And that's Eric Olin basketball. Last year at UCSD, they led in those margins where they forced teams into a lot more turnovers than they were giving up themselves, and protecting the basketball, protecting those possessions will just be key for this offense because they're not shooting the basketball well from 3-point land. I think it's below 30% right now. So hopefully that crawls up a little bit, but they have been not shooting good from outside. Last game, drilled it inside for over 50 points in the paint. So maybe a conscious effort of the coaches and the players to go to what's working. New Mexico State will have much bigger defenders down low than they've seen the previous games. Like I mentioned, Julius Mims at 6'9" for the Aggies. Malanga, a center from East Carolina on the Aggies, stands at 6'11". And then a freshman, Augustine Ekwe, at 6'9". So even the guys that are bringing off the bench have size. JT Rock's minutes will be important. He's averaging about 9 to 10 minutes. And when he's in, they go to that zone defense, and it really gives a different look to New Mexico's opponents, usually forcing some turnovers, different looks. And I like JT Rock's minutes, even though he hasn't been scoring a lot so far. And I'm going to wrap up with a few final thoughts. Something really cool. One of my buddies, Mr. Nick Nunez, known from the Pit Press and the work he does there, was able to actually host the post-game radio show with Kenny Thomas last week. He and his dad, Nick Nunez, and his dad, Ed Nunez, getting some time on the radio with Kenny Thomas there in Albuquerque. Pretty cool. Check those shows out if you can. And we will just be looking forward to watching this rivalry this weekend, have memories of this growing up, and the hatred that just kind of flows through the state is unmatched in these games. So looking forward to it. Be back to do a recap of the game, and appreciate all you Cherry Heat Check listeners out there. Thank you.